talk about this. Let's talk about teams. So I believe the line in Vegas is still at 3.5 quarterbacks first round, which is a good line.
Really?
I believe so.
3.5? They think 4 is going to go in the first round?
Well, I think they're trying to, let me check it for sure. It
What's the
has been
number
at
on the
3.5.
under on that?
Three,
Like,
3.5. You think the under?
what, 3.5 quarterbacks?
Yeah, because I go
I think there's going to be 2.
2.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, I think.
So let's talk about it because you got some interesting spots in the first round. What are some pivot points, your teams that you're watching for, like after the Browns pick? Like the rest of the NFL is watching the Browns. That's the first pivot point in this first round, right? Um, After that, like who are you looking at here that could take a quarterback?
So if we go through the draft order, right?
Yeah.
I think 1 and 2 seem pretty clear cut at this point. It
Yeah.
seems like the Titans have fallen in love with Cam Ward. They
Yeah.
have started the PR campaign
Oh
already on
yeah.
him. I've
Oh yeah.
already heard them compare him to Steve McNair. They're in. They're going to
Yeah.
take
They're
Cam
in.
Ward.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The Browns at 2, they're taking Travis Hunter more than likely. I would be at this point surprised if they went any other direction other than Travis Hunter.
It's not going to be a quarterback. I know that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So to me, I think the draft really does start at pick 3 because
Okay.
New York's the first team you look at. They could take a quarterback. I tend to think New York is thinking a lot more short term than most people are, right? Quarterback's a long term project.
Yeah.
This is not a team that's guaranteed to finish a long term project. This is a team that, in order to ensure a long term project, needs some short term success.
Yes.
So they seem like a team that's going to try to take a player that can help them right away, which means they're a wild card, right? They could go Genty here. They could go Abdul here. They could go with somebody that they just feel like Will Johnson. Like they can go anybody there at 3, I think, right? Now, the Saints are an interesting spot. They have invested a ton in Derek Carr, but I think the Saints, unfortunately for them, I don't think they know it yet, but they're in the same spot we were last offseason with Deshaun Watson, where you've invested enough money and time that you really don't want to undermine that right now. Right?
Yeah.
And drafting a quarterback at 9 would completely undermine that entire project. And I don't think they're ready to do it. So I don't know if they go quarterback at 9 here. And let me pull up the draft order on my end, right? So we can kind of get a clearer picture here.
Yeah, I'm looking at. So what's your read on the Carr? Here's the question: what's your read on the Carr situation? Then, like, is that him? You think trying to force his way out, or is that the team? Like, I've seen a lot of people come up and say that there's something fishy there with this whole shoulder thing.
Well, it's Derek Carr, right? And Derek Carr, this is not the first time he's had an injury situation like this. I think Occam's razor on this. Derek Carr has a reputation for trying to be a tough man, right? For hiding, not disclosing every injury that he's going through.
Sure.
And I think this was similar to the Deshaun Watson shoulder thing, where Derek Carr's camp went really hard to hide the severity of this injury from the team. And the team might be pissed off, right? But just like the Browns were pissed off last year about how that shoulder injury was not really fully disclosed to them or kind of downplayed by the Watson camp for so much of the 2023 season, they weren't ready to give up on him because of that, right? Like they were still ready to roll it out with him. I think they're in a similar position where they're annoyed with Derek Carr, but they still kind of got to see it through. Everybody else around the league is like, why would you continue to go with this? But they've sunk a lot in, and they don't have it. They're not like the Browns, where the Browns put a lot down the line and they were really smart with their contracts. They don't have an out. They got to see this shit through.
Yeah.
So, or else it's Spencer Rattler, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I think they are kind of in a tough spot to where they can't undermine that. They have to make a move to make something happen. I think 11 is an interesting spot for Jalen MILROE, San Francisco. That's the
Interesting.
that's the first spot where I'm like, if there's a Jalen Milroe surprise in this draft, I think it could happen at 11 and 12. Dallas and San Francisco. Brock Purdy's in the last year of his deal. He's not close to having a contract done with San Francisco.
No.
So right now, he's on track to be an unrestricted free agent in 2026.
Yeah.
And all of the signs from San Francisco indicate they got cold feet about paying this dude. Right?
They
We heard
do.
about it last year. We are hearing about it now. Remember, Brock Purdy has that weird elbow injury that they're really uncomfortable about. Right.
Yeah.
So it's not just how good do you think Brock Purdy is? It's like, how well do you think this guy who is really small is going to hold up physically? And then you look at Jalen Milroe, right? If we think he could be a fit in a Tommy Rees system, he could be a fit in a Kyle Shanahan system. I think the difference between him and the other athletic guys that they've tried to run there is that Jalen Milroe wants to be on time, wants to play in structure, wants to be coached, right? And then you have that athletic ability on top of that. I think there's a good chance that Kyle Shanahan says, hey, we know we're not going to have to play this guy year one. We still got Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
And then we can give ourselves some leverage in a contract negotiation with Brock because we can say, hey, we could just go with Jalen. Right?
Interesting.
In a contract negotiation with him. And in best case scenario, Jalen Milroe balls out, then you got another guy on a rookie contract for a long time.
Yeah.
So,
it creates some leverage too.
And they're the one team in that top 11 that has the leverage in the roster to say, we don't got to do this. Like, we don't have to add somebody that helps to help us day one. If we just stay healthy, we're fine.
I agree. That's an interesting point. I didn't even consider the Niners there. Let me bounce back to two teams I want to ask you about.
Mhm.
The Raiders at 6.
Mm.
There's a connection to Shador there a little bit. And then the Jets at 7. You think no go on quarterback there?
No go on the Raiders at 6. I think that Shador would be the one they would go with, and Shador's not somebody you sit on the bench. Behind Geno Smith, who just signed a 3-year contract at $37 million, right? So I don't think they're really thinking about Pete Carroll ain't thinking about the future. Pete Carroll like 70-something years old. He's trying to win now. He's trying to use that pick to get better around Geno Smith.
Now.
Yeah. New York, are they first-year GM situation?
Are they?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe they're first-year GM situation. One thing about first-year GMs, they are more hesitant at quarterback than guys in their third, fourth year, right? So unless they fall in love with one of these guys, then I could see them saying, "Hey, let's just get a position player. Let's get better right now, right?" Because you don't want your first pick to be a massive screw up that everybody's gonna have to spend 3 years watching on the field, or run that risk. So I think they're gonna be too scared to go quarterback at 7 there.
It's a little too rich probably for those teams to take a swing there. It's too much of a commitment. I would agree. All right, so 11 is super interesting. You mentioned Dallas for Milroe, right?
Yeah, that's another team, right? There are two things I measure a team's quarterback relationship on. How often do you hear them in trade rumors? Yeah. Whether the rumors are legitimate or not. Like, how often are people on the team talking about it, right? And two, what do they do at backup? The reason I'm like, man, I don't think the 49ers really love Brock Purdy. Every year they go out their way to sign a really good backup that they want to develop, right? Like every year. They got Mac Jones this year, who we know Kyle Shanahan felt strongly about him coming out. Sam Darnold the year before, Josh Dobbs last year, right? Like they keep trying to develop somebody back there. Even with Josh Dobbs, they ended up sitting him for somebody else they wanted to develop, right? Because they wanted to give that guy a chance. Like they're always trying to audition people at quarterback. It feels weird. The Cowboys are the same way. The last few years, they have been taking these shots at backup quarterback, right? They do Trey Lance, trade a 4th for him, and then they just did another swing with Joe Milton. Why? Right? Like, why are you doing that? Dak has the whole contract thing coming up. And look, this is not the year they're going to trade Dak Prescott. You want to draft Jalen Milroe thinking, that, okay, we're going to trade Dak and be good. But you might be thinking to yourself, well, we'll have Dak for a year. We could sit Jalen, and then we'll play
Yeah.
Jalen. And similar to the 49ers, you feel like all of the stuff that happened last year was about Dak being injured and the team being injured. So you don't really think you need to add a ton of talent right now. So, you're kind of freed up if you're the Dallas Cowboys to go after Jalen MILROE. And it's kind of similar principles there, right? This is somebody who people think has the most physical talent in this draft class. Somebody who has high coachable intangibles, right? And he's the youngest quarterback in this class. I think some people have gotten caught up in like, oh, the internet doesn't rank him high, right? The internet sees him as top, as 50, 60 on some of these boards. But coaches are going to look at that guy and say, look at everything you could turn this guy into.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, hey, look, his tape might not scream top 13 pick, but maybe in 2-3 years, just like Jordan Love, you're gonna look at that and be like, that was a good pick, right?
Yes.
Especially if you get the time to develop him. So those two teams, right, 11 and 12, that's the first part where I'm like, okay, I'm getting a little nervous if I want MILROE at the back end of the draft, where I'm like, let's make sure he slides through 11 and 12, because I'm not 100% sure he's gonna slide through 11 and 12. Maybe also 11 might be another a surprise Jackson Dart spot. I'm not a big fan of Jackson Dart, but if you like what Jackson Dart can do, which is just make quick decisions based on like RPOs, like that's Kyle Shanahan might like that too.
Agreed. We've seen a lot of mocking of, we talked about the Saints, but I've seen him mocked at 9 a lot. What's the connection there, you think, with Dart?
I have no clue.
Okay. It's a weird one, right?
I think they're looking at that one and saying, well, Jackson Dart, who's the OC over there right now? Like, who they hire as the head coach?
Well, they're Kellen Moore is their head coach now. So
so Kellen Moore is heavy RPO.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what Dart is. Dart is truly an RPO quarterback. So maybe that's the connection they're seeing there. So maybe that's like, if you're a team that really loves Cam Ward, I could see you being in the sweepstakes for Jackson Dart, because both those guys are pretty good off RPOs. I don't think Cam's much better at RPOs than like Jackson, but like I think that's the big appeal with Cam Ward. If you feel like you have a deep RPO bag as a coordinator, then Cam Ward makes sense.
Okay. All right. So we're through 12. What's the next team that jumps out to you?
Oh, Pittsburgh, obviously, right? 21. I think that's the next pit stop. It's like, okay, Pittsburgh. They need a quarterback.
It feels like it's not going to be Shador, according to the reports this week. So it feels like they love MILROE.
Either MILROE or Dart, right, is what you're hearing. And that would make sense given what we know. Like, I never thought that Shador would be a big fit with Pittsburgh. He doesn't seem like a Mike Tomlin guy, but MILROE most certainly does. So the question with Pittsburgh is, can they really pass up on talent at 21 that they need right now, especially if you're going to go with an old quarterback? I guess the counter argument to that would be, hey, they traded for DK, so they can say in their heads, well, we got DK with the second pick, with our second round pick, so we can take a chance there in the first round because we got a known quantity with our second round pick. And maybe that's what they're setting up. Hey, they got 2 wide receivers there for a reason. And maybe that's because they're thinking about developing a quarterback. And they not just got 2 wide receivers, they extended DK on top of it, right? Which, kind of points towards more quarterback oriented. So, 21 is another one where I'm like, okay, they could probably go for a quarterback. Because in between 21 and 11, like what? The Dolphins aren't doing it. The Colts aren't doing it. The Falcons definitely aren't doing it. The Cardinals aren't doing it. The Bengals aren't doing it. The Seahawks aren't doing it. The Bucks aren't doing it. Yeah, so it's you'll be fine until you get to 21 there.
Yeah. I look at an interesting one that you don't hear a lot, and after that, I'll just throw out there. What about the Rams? That's an interesting spot, I think.
The Rams and the Lions, right? Those two, because Matt Stafford's getting older.
Yes.
Now, Les Snead don't like young people. It's clear he don't like young people. So he might take Tyler Shuck here, right? Like
Yeah.
he don't like these young dudes. He has not
Yeah.
drafted like anybody under the age of 22 or under the age of 23 in a long time.
Yeah. F
So
them
that's the
picks.
only
Right.
thing that makes me wonder if
Yeah.
Les Snead might be one of these guys is like, hey man, let me see what I can get with Tyler Shuck in the second or third round. But I look at Detroit and I'm like, I can see it with Detroit too, right? They did meet with Jalen MILROE. We talked about it. They have Terrion Arnold there, right, who could vouch for the work ethic that Jalen does. It doesn't seem like Jalen was excited about the
No.
prospect of going there, but
No.
I could see that being a big fit there with what Detroit has going, and another team that could say, hey, we can sit this guy for a year for sure, and then have him play when he's ready. The issue with Detroit, right, is that it's not as clear cut of a situation as I think is there at 11 and 12, where it's like, okay, they're definitely going to go 1 year if he goes 11 or 1 year if he goes at 12. With Los Angeles, it's like, well, they did extend Matt Stafford, so they're kind of committed to that. So
Yep.
maybe you want to wait till 2026 or 2027. I feel like if you're a team, you feel like you can push this to 2027, you do it. And Detroit's in that same spot where I'm like, they could go quarterback here, but they could also say, hey, like, we're probably going to have to approach this more in 2027 anyways, because we don't want a guy to waste his rookie contract sitting on the bench when Jared
Exactly.
Goff's not ready to retire yet, right? Or not even close to being ready to retire yet. So I think
Yeah.
that's going to be the big question there. And I think if you're the Browns and he does get past 26, that's when your window starts to open to make a deal to get back
Yeah.
in the first round. If you really, really like, if they love MILROE, might
Yeah.
as well secure him. It's not really about the fifth year option as much as it's like, hey, I don't want to be here trying to get cute and being like, damn, I didn't get my guy because I wanted to wait to 33 because I didn't want to give up the extra late round pick. So,
Sure.
I think once you get to 26, and I think LA could also be a trade partner for you there. The Ravens aren't going to be a trade partner for you,
No.
but then I think maybe the Commanders be willing to
Yeah.
deal with you. And
Yeah.
then obviously the Eagles would be willing to move with you too if you just really did value the fifth year option for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mocked that a couple times. Like, hey, if he's at 32, you're going to take him at 33. You just
Mm-hmm.
flip him, a seventh or whatever. Go up one pick. They
You
drop
might
down a
not
pick.
even have to net a pick out. It might just be a
Yeah,
pick swap.
yeah,
You give them 33, 32, and then you go from like 192, and you take like their 213 and they get 192. Something
exactly.
like that.
Something real simple. You got a good relationship with them, his brothers over there, and you get that 5th-year option on him.
Yeah, it's more or less a deal to open the window to
Yeah,
see if you can. And if you're Philly, right, you're gonna want to keep an eye on this Myles Garrett thing, and that's another thing to think about. I don't think NFL teams are convinced that the Myles situation is completely over, and I wouldn't
agreed.
if I were them. So like, they're gonna make deals that are like, hey, like let's work in good faith because
Yep,
if Myles comes, I want to be the team you call, right? Like the Nico
yep,
stuff, right? The team you feel comfortable calling in the middle of the night if you decide to do something rash, and
absolutely.
have a good read on things. So like there's gonna be a lot of people making deals like in good faith with the Browns. So I think Philly would make a ton of sense there to try to make a deal in good faith with Cleveland.
33. So if Milroe's there, I think we all kind of think that might be the pick, and if he's around there. So the question becomes for me though, and the super intriguing thing is, I don't think there's any way that I think that's how you get the 4 quarterbacks in the first round. I think the line, like I said, was 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think they just have teams, somebody taking dart, somebody that loves them that we don't know about. I don't know. Um, I've said all along, I think he goes in the first round to somebody. We'll see. But I think, somebody in the back end of the first takes that 4th quarterback. I think that's how you get the over on that, or what Vegas is thinking. Maybe not. Maybe it's easy money and you go under on that. Um, go to
I
your,
think I think people tend to overestimate at times what the quarterback pickings is going to be.
mhm.
Um, And I think last year made it so that people are going to be a lot eager. But I think for me, last year's evidence that they're not going to be that eager because a lot of the justification that came out for why so many quarterbacks won the first round last year was because they were looking at this year's class and weren't too convinced about it. Well,
That's a good point.
if that's the math, then it's not going to happen 2 years in a row, right? Like the
Right.
teams are going to probably be a lot more conservative about taking a quarterback here. I think Milroe could make sense there. I think if you like Dart, you feel like you could get Dart. Like Dart makes sense at like 35, right? Like or in the second round. So I think Dart does make it to the second. And then like I don't even know who the fourth quarter was. Shador. I think he should be a first round pick, but like I don't think I'd be surprised if Dart, Milroe, Cam Ward, and Shador all went in the first. Like
that would be.
I don't think there's that many slots of teams, right? Because I think some of these teams only make sense for certain quarterbacks. Because I don't think the 49ers are going to draft Shador. Right, like I don't think that's something that they're gonna do. I think they would be more interested in somebody developmental. And that's why I'm like, when I look at who could the second quarterback be, there's way more opportunity for somebody developmental this year in the first than there is for somebody you're looking at as like, oh yeah, that's a finished product, right? Like,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think that's the disconnect that Vegas has, right?